I'm Caramel. Hey.
Hey, best friend. What?
How are you this morning?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. It's another day, right? Another day, another dollar.
Or at least 15 cents.
Right. That's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, it's
Adding
no,
another nickel to the coffers.
yeah, I don't think we have a dollar that we're making right now.
I,
So I'm,
that's the topic today, right?
yeah, I was thinking about that. And we talk about it, ad nauseum. I think when we're talking with each other, we're always talking about scaling and growing and
Hmm.
scaling and growing. And so I'm sitting here thinking and just making that joke of adding a dollar. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
dollar. You're like, no, we're not making dollars. And I was thinking, I'm in the insurance industry, and so in thinking about the insurance industry, they were given some numbers, and they were like, for every dollar that they want to make 10 cents. I was
Hmm.
like, what? Just try to make 10 cents. But then when you're talking about billions of dollars, 10 cents on billions of dollars,
It matters. The
it's a
scale of
little,
things, right? We talk about what's growing and what's scaling and what that actually looks like.
yeah, because growing is, you have to add stuff. You have to add people, you have to add capital, you have to add tech, you got to add something in order to grow. But then when you're able to scale, you're able to scale with what you have. And I think
Hmm.
that's what I'm trying to do really. I have a modified team where I'm not running as large as I normally. I've had as high as 10 employees. That's W-2 employees, and it
Right.
it was a large payroll. And now I'm down to just a payroll of like 5 people, and I'm like,
So you cut your payroll in half.
I don't think I actually cut it in half. The number of bodies is in half. I
Okay.
would say that doesn't necessarily mean the payroll was cut in half,
Well, let's
because
talk about that because I think that that's important to talk about because if we're going to cut back, if we're saying that we're going to bring some things back to add to the coffers, add to the profit, you cut some of it, not all of it, maybe 30, 40%.
I would probably say about 30%, because the one that was added was the operations manager,
Okay.
and I retained the service manager.
Okay.
So their pay was a little bit more than the other pay of the people that I let go. I
Oh,
let go just some salespeople, so the money was different. So the set amount, like salespeople make commission, so they kind of make the money that they get paid. Whereas
correct.
service and operations, then they retain business for me, but they don't necessarily bring in business.
So that's an interesting concept as well when you're thinking about that. The fact that you can have people who work for you that are not bringing in the dollars, that's a different story than the people who are actually making the dollars.
Well, I won't say they don't, because retention is important. Being
Sure.
able to retain business in insurance, you make money two ways. You generate new business, and you retain the business that you have, that you can
Hmm.
get a renewal. So the fact that they're able to retain business, that is making money. Because see,
Okay.
we're in a crucial time right now where prices are so much higher.
Oh,
So stuff walking out the door, and if they're able to retain that business and keep it from walking out the door, because we can sell 5 policies, and if 3 of them walk out the door, then we're net two. Or we can sell 5 and 5 walk out, we're zero, we hadn't increased
right.
or anything. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of trying to make a difference and try to put things together. So scaling right now, I think, is what I am, because for a long time you used to talk about scaling. You would always talk about, oh, I want to scale, I want to scale.
Hmm.
I think you actually were talking about growing, and I'm really the one that should be scaling, and I was talking about growth. You know what I mean? Now that
Hmm.
I'm looking at the definitions of them and what really is going on, because when I say you're growing, you were adding staff,
Yeah.
you were adding capital, you were adding resources. So I think you were growing, and then I'm scaling, where I'm trying to increase revenue with the team, a smaller team.
Sure.
And I think that is, and I was like, isn't that something? How when you look at the definitions of what things are, how you realize, oh, I'm saying something. This is not really what I'm talking about. I'm doing what
A
I'm
hundred
doing.
percent. I think that when at the time that I was when at the time of when we were looking at 5 years in business, we talk about this all the time. With 5 years in business, and so there has to be a back to basics type of scenario where we're actually going through and crunching numbers. I'm crunching those numbers right now, and in the growth stage that I was at, hiring a fractional CFO, which is somebody who crunches the numbers and has looks at numbers all the time and can kind of give me a preview to what's coming and what I can do and what I can't do with the money coming in and cash flow. I understood that. He said, listen, if you want to make some more money, you're going to have to cut back some of these expenses. And I was like, but wait a minute.
What do I cut? It's like we gotta have this. We gotta like it's like
Wait.
what turn the lights off? Do I cut the air, the gas off? What do I cut?
And to your point, that was really, it's great that you said that because when in the beginning it was just me. So the overhead was super low, right? I mean, we just didn't have a whole lot of expenses. But
I
when you
look back
add,
on year one and I made money year one. Then I started looking at all the year two, three, and four. I had all these high expenses. I was thinking, what the heck was and I call myself watching numbers, but now when I go back and look at this, I was like, what in the hell?
what numbers were you really watching?
But I did a lot. I think I was just looking at the cash flow. And,
Sure. Sure.
and
And you
cash
know what?
flow
I
will
think that
fool you.
and I think, yeah, looking at cash flow, like when you're thinking about the dollars in and the dollars out, that can seem pretty simple. But had you tried to make the business continue to run, making it to 5 years is a big deal. Now you have to really crunch those numbers and start to figure out, okay, where can that stuff be shaved off? I can make more, have more in the profit margin, have more. Those margins really start to matter.
I think you start looking at a business being physically fit,
Yeah,
fiscally fit. And I
fiscally,
think
yeah.
that's something that that is important because see, you can pay your bills, you can buy things, you can have the nice cars, you can have a house, you can remodel your house, you can do all the things. You can take trips and travel, you can do all the things. But if I think COVID showed us how many businesses weren't fiscally fit.
Sure.
You see what I'm
Sure.
saying? Because when the money stopped, because see, when cash flow is flowing, okay, so next month I'm getting a big check. Next month I get a big check, and it just
Sure.
keeps going. But when I don't get that month, I don't get that because businesses can live check to check too.
100%. There's a short. So listen, I'm an accrual based business, but I do my taxes on cash basis. And so accrual, of course, meaning I get money now, but don't have to spend it until later. Right. Whereas, on a cash basis, you give me the dollar, I give you a piece of thing or something in your hand immediately. Well, accrual can really play a hard trick on you because I done got the money back in December and now it's May and they like, where my stuff?
We got to
What?
go somewhere. Where's the travel? What's
Right.
going on?
And so that really got me to understanding and thinking, girl, you need to really do this cash flow analysis and be working and worrying about, do you have enough money to meet the bill and meet the mail when in the future months?
That would be so scary to me. That would be so scary because the only thing I worry about now is because I do have W-2 employees.
Yeah.
I have to pay them.
Look, I need to make sure there's enough money, a check come in that they can get paid.
And that's really, and I tell them all the time that they're my biggest bill. And it's like when I look at the money, so I get a check, half of it goes to that. And these people are working with me and they are trusting
Sure.
that I am going on the 8th and the 23rd, that there's going to be money direct deposited into
Right.
their account. And so in my mind, that is something that is extremely, so that's why when I'm thinking about growing,
There's some pressure there, right? There's some
It
pressure
is.
in making sure that because you have people's livelihoods in your hands as an
their
employer.
family, they're
Yeah.
they have families, they have lives, they make plans that they're just the same way that I look for my carrier to drop money in my account, but they're bigger, so I'm like, oh, they'll never run out of money. So but then I'm a small business and I'm like,
Right.
hey,
But let's not say that they will never run out of money because businesses don't make it, even the large ones. We see these banks that are falling and folding.
sure, but then
But-
it's also on the news that they're not making it. You kind of get you get a heads up. Let me tell you about a local business that came in, and well, not regional business. They came in and they told their people, they said, hey, you're not getting a check, we're done, and wrapped things up, and people did not get that next check. There wasn't
Wow.
they had already gotten their last check, and they had no indication that the business was going to go away. Could you imagine?
I think of a business just like anybody else, somebody who has started a thing and is running a thing and hoping that the thing goes well and flourishes. And you hope that, a business that's been a business that's been doing business for a number of years.
Stop. I said somebody didn't get their check when they were thinking they was going to get, and you talking about I think a business.
Well,
Girl,
because you
bye.
know what?
Girl, bye.
We have faith in our employers, but we also have to know that these are real people.
Listen, but the faith is like this: that if you were going to go out of business, I'm gonna get one more check. I'm gonna get some severance. Not like I think about me. If I got the last check I got, I'm expecting a check on the 17th or 18th or the 20th or whatever month it is.
Sure.
So on the 20th, if my money's not coming, and you can tell me, well, Michelle, you got to go with the money you got last month.
So
What?
this is an epiphany for me. I just had one when we were just talking, and you was like, I don't know, this accrual thing that I got going on, and having money in hand today, but not having to spend that money until 6, 7, sometimes 12 months later. That turnover it is scary. It was scary last year. I had a significant loss. Now I made it up by infusing some capital in there. I had to get a capital loan because I didn't have the money. I had spent it already. And so that's part of the analysis that had to be done, that in my cash flow scenarios, I need to make sure that I'm projecting what that money is going to be like, so
I
that in
think we
12 months,
figured
I'm
out.
not having to go out and get another capital
But
loan.
we figured out what the issue was. That I think you talked about it. You said that this okay. So for those who don't know us, we're best friends, and we talk every morning, and we have billions and billions of conversations about all of this stuff that we talk about on the
Right.
podcast. So in one of our early morning conversations, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we were talking about, and you said that the prices go up
Oh, yes.
from the time in December of 2022 when you book something, and y'all are going to go in 2023, that the
Yep.
prices are higher, and sometimes 20 to 30% higher.
Sometimes they are.
And so now what do you have to do to adjust for that?
So that's part of the analysis, right? So what we're having to do now is I'm having
So
to.
you're having to guesstimate what you think is
Well,
going to
we always make our projections out there. So I have a budget projection which tells me what the cost was at the time, and then I have to do a market analysis, because a lot of times it's in a different currency, right? And it makes another whole level,
She
because now it's
sounds
not.
so business market analysis. Girl, what is you
Well, it's
talking
not
about?
just dollars. It's euros and yen and Egyptian pounds and the Korean
So
won.
when you have a travel business, women travel abroad, that's what she's talking about. She's not a big investor or anything.
Well,
That
what I'm
she's
saying is,
exchanging money.
when we're talking about being in business and having to project, because there are a lot of businesses that are accrual based, right? That they have money in hand now, but don't do it and don't spend it, or don't are not supposed to spend it or have to use it until the next year. What I've had to really do is I've had to crunch the numbers. What money am I going to need there? And furthermore, I'm having to plan where before COVID, I was making hand over
COVID.
fist.
Did you say
I
COVID?
meant COVID.
I was
During-
COVID. She
during-
meant COVID. That was a
I'm not
Freudian
thinking about you.
because she
Whatever,
was
girl.
COVID during COVID.
During COVID, I was buying things in advance and getting the non-refundable, non-cancelable rates. I'm giving an example of me buying a hotel. So that hotel, the rate could save me a significant amount of money. So if I'm spending, it's $100 for it to be cancelable, it would be $50 if I bought the non-refundable. So I'm like,
Oh
ooh.
my goodness, it was so enticing.
So you're talking about 50% difference. So that was enticing. So when I bought that, well, COVID showed me you paid all that money in advance. And what happens if COVID happens and you don't get any of that money back?
And it's so crazy because COVID was a thing where we never thought.
Sure.
Like it was like if you dreamed the worst thing that you think could happen, it would never be that the whole nation
It was an
would shut down.
anomaly that hit the globe. And I think and I couldn't get to Italy to get my money back from said hotel, or to France, or to Japan. So I had to basically say, this money is lost, to the tune of $123,000.
The number
like that-
goes up every time.
Well, let me say why. I made my customer take half of that, and it went down to $66,000.
Okay.
Because I took half of the brunt, and I made them take half of the brunt, and it was very difficult
Well,
for me
you
to do so.
shared it with them.
I did.
I remember too. She was a bleeding heart because I was like, "Girl, bye. They don't. If you didn't get money back, they don't get money back."
And this is
she
what
was
you
like-
said, but my mind couldn't fathom that. I
She's like,
couldn't
but it's
fathom.
not their fault. I'm like, okay. And then when this is what got her tough, you gave people half and more money back, and then they still complain.
They did.
And it was like,
and the
what?
other part of that is, so when we're thinking about what that money is and certain growth and scale and all of that, I'm looking at my numbers now, and I'm able to be a little bit more proactive, because I'm getting back to the stage where now it's time for me to start getting back to buying at scale, meaning buying right now because the market is good and the euro is good and the dollar is strong, to where I can save. Right now, I just booked my hotels for a trip in where is it? I think it's Egypt. Well, I'm saving $2,250. That may not sound like a whole lot, but on a trip that may cost me $23,000, to get $2,000, $2,200 back.
Absolutely. Any money you're saving goes to profit. And
That's
so
correct. It goes
you,
back to my profit. And so
yeah.
those are the kind of things that I'm having to really look and project out, because maybe it's not the best thing for me to not pay a deposit or not pay the hotel in advance, especially when the trip is sold out, right? So I'm able to, right now, I've got trips that are sold out for 2024 in April. Like they're sold out. So I had them sold out a year in advance. Well, that means it makes sense for me to go ahead and prepay for my hotels and get the better rate
Because
because
it's
they're
sold
already
out. You
paying me.
have the people that are already coming.
Correct.
So that makes sense. I'm looking at, I have another business. We both have another business, and you call it CEO Studios. Mine is Boss Studios, where you lease out space. And so it's so funny. I've got some new tenants. It's 11 spaces, and so I got a new tenant, and they're calling with requests, and it's
Okay.
okay. There's no problem with that. But it's like, okay, this cost. Okay,
Yeah.
you just moved in and you've only paid this, but I've had to pay out that to kind of
Sure.
and I'm hedging that you're going to be there
A little
and
while.
and I'm just like, people don't
But what if they
understand
don't? Right?
that's what they have to understand. It was something simple like moving a sink, installing a sink. And it was like, okay. And so I don't have a full-time maintenance guy. He's a part-time. He kind of, well, he's an on-call maintenance guy. So we then she says, well, it's too low. I want it up higher. So we moved it up higher. Now it's too high. And now the one, and I'm just like,
Well, she's going to have to fit that bill. She needs to know that. And so you told me this, which is so funny that you're saying this right now, because I was having the same situation in CEO Studios where I had a young lady who installed her own sink and it kept leaking because it wasn't secured properly. I should have never let her put that sink in there. So it was 3 times. And the 2 times. And the third time I said, listen here, girl, you're going to have to pay this $150.
well, I require that you use my person. That's it. You
Okay.
have to use my person. That's it. I don't let you do any work in the building,
Well, she
because
did use my person. The problem was she wasn't, it was shaken and she didn't have it secure. And she didn't, well, I don't want to change this and I don't want to change that. Well, listen. So those are the kind of things like, again,
and then it goes to your growing. Because see, I pushed to have it filled because I was like, okay, I want to make sure
sure.
that because I wanted to be performing because it's passive income. I want to get all of the passive income, and so that's what I have to think about when you have a full. Each person needs something. Each
Sure.
person is wants something, needs
So
something.
there's maintenance costs. You have to build in that maintenance cost
And
that
I
it's going
haven't
to,
had maintenance costs before. So though I have scaled it and got it full, now I'm having to add a cost that I didn't have. So then am I really making some money? Or was I better off with 7 people as opposed to 11 people?
which goes back to, is it growth or is it scaling? Right?
And so I'm like, okay. And and that's what this is all about. We talk about this, and I do not profess to be any type of guru or anything. I'm
Sure.
just a business person who wants to start a business, and I'm in business, and it's hard. 5 years, we're reading this article, and I don't think it's enough for just to be a show by itself, but it was awesome to me that this business had been in business for 141 years.
Sure. That you're talking about, the business is called EE Ward. They have been in business for 141 years. They're a moving company.
I,
EE Ward Moving and Storage Company, out of Columbus, Ohio.
141 years. I'm thinking 5 years was so hard. How in the hell do you stay open 100? I mean, could you imagine that? So let's transfer. What year was that? Take the time
That
back.
was in 1881 that they started.
1881. You got a business. 1881. We just got out of being slaves.
And we're
so
still almost in it. And here's what's so funny, that company was the first black-owned agent to, as a moving agent, to receive the 2021 North American Van Lines Agent of the Year award. So
just in
in
2000.
2020, right, in 2021. So you're talking about, not only are you 141 years old, but even in your present day, you are winning awards and accolades for the business that you're running. That's how you can, that's a testament.
That I just marvel at that, and I really would like to hear that story and hear, how do you keep it? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, 5 years in, I have gotten a bit like, okay, what do I do next? What am I trying to achieve? What's the goal?
Thank you for being transparent, best friend, because I'm going to tell you right now, I've always told you I've been looking at my exit plan.
right.
But
Well,
I
the
think
carrier.
transparency in that and saying that, because I think as a business owner, we can sometimes glorify and make it grandiose more than what it really is. And I think people really need to hear that as a business owner and running a successful business, it gets hard to where you like, listen, I don't know if I want to do this no more.
Well, and then it's like, okay, what if I want to do something else?
Hmm.
Because I'm really intrigued with social media, and I love to cook. So I think I'm going to start cooking on social media. Just
Oh,
cook, just
and
cook.
okay, I
And
see
just cooking.
you.
Well, like, why am I doing that? What's the whole point of
But
doing
it's the
that?
next iteration, right? I think that as a serial entrepreneur, as a business owner, as someone who is a creative, and that's what you have to be when you're a business owner, I feel like it's that time where you're like, all right, is this it? Can I pivot? I was speaking, I was in a retreat in Bali a couple weeks ago, and I remember the young lady, Glow was her name, and she was saying that she pivots all the time in her business. After 2 or 3 years, she's like, I'm good. Let me see if there's something else out there, because that's what keeps her the tenacity and keeps her wanting more. And so people like you, but this is successful. You're doing great things. Why would you change? She's like, because I want to.
And I'm just not that type of person. I'm not a whimsical kind of person where I can
Hmm.
just say I changed because I wanted to. That seems so flaky to me. I just I
But
and
it's
I'm
not
not saying
flaky.
I'm not
Yeah,
saying Glow is flaky. I'm just saying that seems flaky to me to
sure.
just wake up and go, "Oh, I think I'll do something else today."
Hmm.
Now I can see layering something on top of what I'm already doing, but to just say,
Sure.
"Okay." And also, like I said, I have employees, so for me waking up saying I'm going to do something else affects some other people other than
Sure.
myself. That is to change. Now I could say I want to do something else, and I
Sure.
go and pivot and do something else. And I think in certain industries you can do that. I think in your tech world, your social media world, if you're an influencer and that's what you do, so your change is not really, it's just okay. I'm not doing travel anymore. I'm doing dating.
Hmm.
Or I think you can pivot a little easier. But brick and mortar is hard to pivot. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
brick and mortar is the idea is replacing yourself, right? The idea is that
right.
it would run, and now you will no longer be in the running of the business. And we have countless CEOs and business owners out there that we know that don't run all of their businesses. One that comes to
Absolutely.
mind is what Mark Cuban. He's my favorite.
That's the goal, and not even on that level. That there are a lot of agents that I know that they have office managers that run. I talk one in particular. She just came back from Bali. She just left like in October and
Hmm.
was gone till January. I
Oh
was like, do
wow.
what? She says every year she's gonna leave the fourth quarter. She was gonna leave and do what? She said
Yeah.
what happens is she will push her people to hit goal by October. She's out, and then
And
she
that's
will.
intentional. She's made an intentional way
I
to
was like,
program her people.
what? Are you
Well,
serious?
I think that that's the other part, Michelle. You can be intentional about what your goals and what your expectations are for yourself and for your business. And I think that that's kind of where we're at in this 5 year stage, in this, getting back to basics. We have to be very intentional about what we're going to do in this next 5 years or whatever that looks like. And whether that means a new business or a separate business or finding an
Well, the
office
goal the
manager.
goal is to have five streams of revenue that are self-sufficient, that have nothing to do with each other, and that are not affected by the same things. So, Boss Studios is for health and beauty industry for entrepreneurs to have their own space. They rent out a
Sure.
suite. Okay, that has nothing to do with insurance.
Right.
So, to me, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for a third, fourth, and fifth stream that have nothing to do with any of those businesses, so that I can I can take the time off from
Sure.
something and all of them can produce income and I still can move and operate. Now, that's my goal. That's what I'd like to see
Well,
happen.
I've got WTA, which is doing what it needs to do. Then I've got CEO Studios, which is doing what it's supposed to do, like you said, for entrepreneurs who run businesses. And then I've got the real estate arm. The next thing for me is the social media aspect. Here we are doing our podcast on video now, so we are able to say, "Hey, world, hey."
And world, trust me, I don't say anything about my video. I know, yeah, I'm gonna do
Ain't
something
nothing
with
wrong
it.
with your video, girl. But I'll
It
say
is.
that this is the next thing. And then, and we've talked about this podcast doing what it needs to do. And I think that, again, we're 60 some odd shows in, and now we're moving to a new echelon when we go to video. I think these are the type of moves that you make when it becomes easier. It's more time and free time to think about how can I be intentional about having these multiple streams of income. And I'm glad that we had this conversation because,
Yeah,
again, I
you
got a
want to
light bulb
grow.
moment.
I want the podcast to grow. That's an area that I'm looking for to grow. Or it could scale, whichever one would work for us.
Whatever it
some more
is.
some more revenue. Oh, some
Sure.
revenue off of it. But I think that's I think we have something to say. If you want to check us out further, we have like a bunch of audio that are podcasts. Wherever you go for your podcast, you can check us out there for your audio. But we also have video now. So if you're listening to us on audio, you can come check us out at My CEO Chronicles on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. And
Yep.
this is our first one, best friend.
I'm excited. And listen, I feel good about it. You looking all cute and stuff.
Yeah, this video color ain't working for me. See, she's saying okay for hers because hers looks perfect. Mine is like, that's not what color I am, okay?
A mess.
I love you, best friend.
Love you too.